The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena. The television screen is the retina of the mind's eye. Therefore, the television screen is part of the physical structure of the brain.
All right, welcome to another episode of The Outer Reels. This week we talked about, wow, is all I can say, Empire of Ash. I got to start with a little bit of background on this one. Empire of Ash came out in 1988, and then in 1989, Empire of Ash 2 was released, which was Empire of Ash with a new name. And also in 1989 came Empire of Ash 3. So you have 3 titles for 2 movies, if that makes sense. Yeah, so 1 and 2, and then there's 3. So we watched this on Plex. It's free to watch on Plex under their library, Empire of Ash. Sam, at what point while watching Empire of Ash on Plex did you realize we were actually watching Empire of Ash 3?
Wait,
or did you even notice?
wait, this was 3?
This was 3.
No, this is not 3. This is 2.
No, this is 3. So we watched Empire of Ash 3. I don't know why it's called Empire of Ash. It's because it's just called Empire of Ash on the title screen, right?
Correct.
And then with is that Japanese writing or Mandarin?
Some kind of Asian Eastern font.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that out.
Yeah, I'm
it's
not sure
all
what it was either.
Wait. I'm certain that what we watched was Empire of Ash 2.
And I'm positive it's not. Empire of Ash 3, because Empire of Ash 3 has William Smith as Lucas, has Ken Farmer as Chuck, has Danielle. None of those characters are in 2 or 1, which is the same movie. Frank Wilson is in both movies.
But Danielle is the lead actress in Empire of Ash / Empire of Ash 2.
Well, I based this off. I went to IMDb. And I saw the images from both movies.
Right.
And we watched 3.
No, I'm already so confused because Danielle and the plot for Empire of Ash, which we watched, which I thought we watched, which on IMDb is Empire of Ash, even though the image association is a poster for Empire of Ash 2, all tracks for 1988, but also the summary for Empire of Ash, which could also be Empire of Ash 2, is all about the post-nuclear New Idaho, and it's about the girl's sister.
But
Are you telling me
3 takes place in New Idaho as well, and they mention it. And the reason why I know it's 3 is because I watched all the credits. Because as we mentioned in our last episode, we could do this whole 6 degrees of separation thing with me. I know at least 4 people that worked on this movie. Okay. So I recognize names. One is a good friend. There's the line producer on this one, who was an assistant director on the first movie, is his director now. I've worked with him a couple of times.
Tell me he also had involvement in Extra too, because when I did some research, the best connections I could find is some of the people in this movie worked on the sequel to Extra.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's Gary Harvey. So, but also if you watch the credits all the way through, the production company, it says Empire of Ash 3. So you may have to go back and double check that. We can pause it if you want to go and look.
I mean, I almost want to look because I watch the credits too, because I do my due diligence, because I enjoy watching and appreciating everybody's work. I really don't think this was Empire of Ash 3.
All right. Well, let's.
Oh, dude, I have a note. It says my final. This is like one of my last notes on my thing. I just scroll down. Yeah. It's finally. My other part of my confusion is the end. It says copyright 89, all rights reserved, Empire of Ash 3 investment partnership. Why is it 3? Why does it say 3 there? Was that the business of the company or something? That's what I thought it was. I didn't think this was actually Empire of Ash 3.
Yeah, because we watched 3. Yeah, it's if you look at the pictures, there's a whole bunch of people who are the same. If you go on IMDb, There is 20 pictures from Empire of Ash, and
Yeah.
but really only 6 are from the production. The rest are all like posters and shit. And if you look at 3, it's all the people in the movie we watched. There is
Wow.
some who are the same in the first one, but it's different. It's a bit different.
Wow.
So
there's some images in here that I didn't recognize from this movie. This has got to be the biggest long-standing cluster of all time.
Oh, it's crazy. It's
Like
absolutely
clearly
crazy.
this was unintentional and wires got crossed somewhere because
Well, I mean, just the fact that they've said, like on the Wikipedia link, it says that Empire of Ash was re-released in '89 as Empire of Ash 2.
right.
Is just crazy. Now, 3 was also, I think, released in the U.S. as Last of the Warriors. And then there's like an Italian poster or something like that in IMDb that's called Road Warrior. And I'm just like, how did they get away with that one?
Yeah, because I'm looking at some of the VHS covers for Empire of Ash, and none of the photos in the background contain anything of the scenes relative to what we just watched.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's but if you look at the ones for 3,
Yeah.
those line up.
So whose fault is this?
Oh, I don't know. It's not, I mean,
So here's the question then is we're doing this podcast about, off the beaten path movies that are dying off and disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Empire of Ash 1 clearly has already suffered that, because even if we could find it, we wouldn't know it was it because it's probably called something else.
yeah, that's part of the problem is these things, like even some of the sort of low budget TV movies that I worked on like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you'd find out had 2 or 3 different names. Even some of the more recent stuff I've worked on, like the Hallmark movies and the like, if they're not actually owned by Hallmark, will end up with another name for overseas. And I'll be like, someone will ask me, to do something on a movie and they'll name it. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's like, what is that? And then they'll say it was this. And I mean, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just, I can't believe, I'm still cracking up about this because there's so many things I was confused about, and I actually have some notes about really confusing things. So
I have absolutely no idea what happened at any point in this movie.
Right, but I'm just talking about from the technical standpoint. Like, one of the things is that this movie tracks as a TRT of 86 minutes, but my note actually says the one I saw was deep into 96 minutes, which also means it's the wrong movie, because this movie didn't grow 10 minutes by being, placed somewhere else. So this is clearly another mistake where somewhere along the line, the original Empire of Ash runs at 86 minutes, but Empire of Ash 2...
No, Empire of Ash 2 is Empire of Ash. So you're thinking Empire of Ash
3, which we watched.
That runs 98 minutes. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
So Empire of Ash 1 and 2, which are the same movie, 86 minutes. Empire of Ash 3, 98.
I guess I blocked that because my confusion right at the end of this was, why is the last part of the credit roll saying copyright 89, all rights reserved, Empire of Ash 3, investment partnership? And I have Y in caps lock. Now I was thinking maybe Empire of Ash 3 was the name of a company because it says investment. But now I'm realizing this is a bigger problem. And unfortunately, nobody's ever going to fix this.
No, and it's I mean, who knows? My guess is, like, because we watched, like I said, we watched it on Plex. Plex probably paid for what they thought was Empire of Ash 1. And we're obviously given 3 from somebody because they don't know what's going on. The company, the post house that worked on this is the first company I worked for in this industry as well. And it was probably someone there.
Was that post house called Gastown Post and Transfer?
That was Gastown Post and Transfer.
Because I wrote that in a note.
Yeah, they were Rainmaker digital pictures by the time I worked there.
But not the Rainmaker
Not the Rainmaker. No.
So
what happened was, so the post facility, Gastown moved and rebranded as Rainmaker. I think that happened when they took on some new investors or something. And then I left there and joined Mainframe Animation, or Mainframe Entertainment, which then got bought by Rainmaker. And of course, the big joke at the time with some of our friends was, that's a lot of money just to get you back, Jason. And then, of course, a month later, myself and half the company are laid off. And then it became, that's a lot of money just to fire you, Jason. Because it was a few million, I think.
Clearly worth it.
Well, and like I said, I know at least 4 of the crew on this show. So,
well, at this point, you've got to get somebody to sign a poster for me.
I could definitely get Greg to do that.
A little secret. So I've been buying, for every movie we review, I've been buying a poster of the movie.
Oh, I didn't know you were doing that too. I know you like to get posters signed by obscure crew members, though. And
I should also mention, on our last talk on the Brood, we talked about Condor Man, and you mentioned that you once had a Scholastic book about Condor Man.
Did you find one?
So I bought the book. It was $2.36 on eBay and $2 shipping, and it's on its way, and I'm very excited.
Pretty sure I spent more than that on mine.
I
should say my parents did. It was back in the day where you got the little paper like catalog, and then you had to fill out the form as to what you wanted. And I didn't even know at the time what Condor Man was, but it sounded like some kind of sci-fi superhero thing, and I was into that.
Right. So to finally get going on this, I feel robbed right now.
I am shocked you never clued in. That's hilarious.
Because it has the same characters and the bio is the same description. Although that said, I haven't looked up any info about Empire of Ash 3 because I thought we were watching Empire of Ash 1. But anyways.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess I'll have to chime in a bit more. But it sounds to me like you had a better idea what was going on inside this movie than I did. So for the most part, I'm going to let you take charge on that. But I will start by saying there is like a cold open to this movie, which for this kind of movie seems, wow, that's impressive, because normally it would just start, you'd think. But there's a cold open with this Lucas Shepard guy, and he's basically telling, it sounds like it's a whole group of people down in a pit that, he's basically they're heretics, I guess. I don't remember some of the words he used, but he has his henchmen basically shoot them all. Should note, we never see any of the people who are getting shot. He's at one point, I've got a thing saying who is talking, because I guess they would show one side of a conversation but never the other. That happens a lot in this movie.
A lot of that.
Yeah. So, but then these guys all get gunned down. We assume it's a whole bunch of people. At least that's what it sounds like from the Luke group. But, well, that's what it is. It's all it is. It's a whole bunch of people talking. And I should also mention, this thing's shot. It's definitely not a made-for-TV movie, but it is shot like one. Like, it's a lot of close-ups of faces and stuff, which is kind of strange. It was weird that it was framed that way.
My first 2 notes on this movie were 4x3 again. Okay, here we go. And then the next thing was like, why is this whole movie look like it's been shot by a second unit? It is just locked off. Yep. That opening scene you're talking about, the shootout in that pit. And I was like, oh, this looks like a quarry, which we'll get to. And I was like, this looks like some quarry. And then it's just people firing guns, cut to the opposing side firing guns, and cutting to other people doing things. There's no reactionary cuts in here at all. It's just B-roll back to back, and it's exhausting.
One of the gunfights I noted, I've got in my notes, like another A-team shootout, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it is, and let it be known, I'm a huge fan of the A-team, and I really like it. But it was shot very matter of fact. But there was a TV show too,
Exactly.
Actually, there's a big problem with a lot of that happened during Predator, out of all things. So Don McAlpine was the director of photography. He was actually my neighbor in Australia, and he's an incredible man. He did Medicine Man and Peter Pan, all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. Of course, all I ever wanted to talk to him about was Predator. But one of the really interesting sort of things was when they were filming there, they had second unit go out and pick up a bunch of stuff when they attacked the Palapa, the first attack. And you watch that sequence, and it is just straight locked off A-team shots. And guess what it was? They hired some A-team guys who were the second unit. It's like not even a joke. It actually happened. And then we joke about it, but it truly is. And so, and of course, John McTiernan was really upset with it. You can even hear in the director's commentary, he mentions that too. He says, man, this is like my least favorite part of the movie. He said, we sent these guys out and they shot it. And he said, I guess they did a bunch of stuff for the A-team and it's just cut for cut, guy blowing up, flying through a grass hut roof. Same as this movie, but not quite as eloquent. This is a little
so
shootout in the intro.
Well, it's not even a shootout in the intro. It's just a bunch of guys gunning down what we assume is a whole bunch of people who don't follow the same religion that they're doing in New Idaho, which is where this movie supposedly takes place, as the first one did. But anyway, they mentioned New Idaho a couple of times, but
they do.
And I was like, thought that it was supposed to be after a nuclear war, but they never mention anything like that. It's always like a disease.
Yes.
So, yeah, which is something that Wikipedia got wrong. So anyway, these guys are gunned down, and then we cut to like a truck on the highway, and we're looking at its wheels, and then our metal song starts up. That was obviously made for the movie. From judging by the credits, I just
what was the band's name? Oh, the Gore Avenue Music Project was the name of the band.
And it's obviously, it seemed to me like it was a group of guys who were friends of the filmmakers.
Right.
It's just die.
It's such a hard cut. Talk about hard cuts. That is a hard cut to that again. And it's like this A-team style shot of the front wheel of that truck.
Whatever. And then it comes up and says Empire of Ash with no number. So
you've got this confusing thing here. You have this movie that starts that says Empire of Ash in the opening title credit, end credit roll. It's saying Empire of Ash 3. So
yep.
I don't know what the hell's happening.
It's definitely Empire of Ash 3.
So in this movie too, I want to be clear with this. I'm probably not going to be able to mention too many character names because
they're hard to keep
so
track
many
of.
these people don't have pictures and none of their character names are mentioned in the movie. So it's either good guy or other good guy or bad guys or grandpa bad guy or I don't know.
So William Smith is Lucas. I know that much. And Ken Farmer is Chuck. Melanie Kilgore is Danielle. And then after that, I don't know whose names are who. So Danielle's the one who's got that sort of top knot kind of haircut that her hair's pulled back, goes up into a thing, and it looks like a horse braid or something.
No, I just wrote down a note like this chick has the same haircut as Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Yes. Yes.
I was just like, wow, she just looks like Goro, dude.
Yeah. And then there's the one with the really short hair. Who saves the guy. Yeah.
Which is Danielle. Short hair is Danielle.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, shit. I thought Danielle was the one with the weird hair. There you go.
No, short hair is Danielle.
Okay. So I already got those names backwards. There you go.
No, easy to do. They got their names backwards. They got the damn movie titles backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. But honestly, if it wasn't for the F-bombs and the nudity, this could have been a TV movie. There was no real gore. And I probably should add that there's really only two people capable of acting in this movie as well. And that's Lucas and Chuck.
Yeah, I like Chuck.
Even Chuck's kind of barely there. But William Smith, that man can act. And he's the one who plays like the religious zealot.
I think to your point of no violence and stuff, I think that just comes from, I hate to say poor filmmaking, but usually violence comes, you have an action and then you have a reaction. This entire movie has no reactions. All the shots are action, but there's no results of people's death or demise
there's
or anything.
A handful where someone gets shot and they fall down and stuff where you see someone shooting, but it's rare. So
we should just continue down this enigma of a film. So after your opening scene, well, what is your short synopsis here of the movie then?
Oh, I mean, honestly, I barely understand anything that's going on. The blonde girl gets captured, and she's taken to I don't know, be like she gives her life force or something to this really old dude.
Well, yeah, we find out later that so she's been kidnapped essentially by the bad guys.
Yeah.
And what thought was happening was you don't know at this point in the movie what's going on and what's happened. Of course, because we're watching the third movie at this point. But of course, we don't know what's going on.
It's only the second movie, but it should be titled the third.
And so we get through this situation where it's explained that there was a disease at some point, and then many people died, and it blew up, and it got bigger and bigger, and then people fled the cities and have just sort of survived in the outskirts and trying to get by. But other peoples have formed bands of groups, and there's all these different sort of tribes, if you say, all around in different regions. And this one particular, let's say the bad tribe, the evil guys, so I don't have a name in their clan or anything. They don't say that. But they're trying to propagate, they're trying to continue, and they don't want to breed with infected people. And therefore, this woman was being born outside, because I think it takes place in 2050. And so she's being born after the...
Yeah, just to stop you there, though, 2050 is what I read on Wikipedia as well. But the two guys that, the military guys who have the encampment with, we'll get to the girls that hang out there at some point.
Yeah, of course.
But those two guys, so that's Chuck and...
Yeah, I wish I knew the other guy.
Yeah, Chuck and
he's
and
great,
the other
though.
guy. Yes. But they're talking about how they were in Vietnam.
Right. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So I think this is supposed to, really supposed to take place in the 80s or 90s, because they remember.
That's right. The good times. Yeah.
They remember the good times from before. So I think this is, probably supposed to be, taking place in the year
current time, 90s or something. Yeah, you're right.
At the very latest, the 90s, because they remember the good times. They were in Vietnam together, which was only 15 years before. And it seemed to get the impression it happened pretty quickly after Vietnam.
And Chuck mentions like, oh yeah, you would you would go to work, and he just mentioned all these like casual things you would do in when the world was normal. So he was there.
Yeah.
This entire trilogy.
People kept dying. Yeah. So he was still alive. And the kid he's talking to, who's probably only 15 or 20 years younger than him, doesn't know it. So that gives us a timeline that doesn't line up with the description of the movie.
No, nothing lines up with any of these movies.
This
is infuriating at this point. I love it. It's amazing. Yeah. So essentially, the movie is a traverse of good people trying to get back a captured good person from evil people. And that's the only way I can lay it out, because I can't pin the cast people on and names to these people because they're never mentioned. Yeah. But it's, it's essentially a road movie, not as in driving or road trip movie, but it's just people onward going somewhere, and then on the way they come across all these other collectives of people that are surviving in this wasteland.
Yeah, although the new Idaho group, when they get into their trucks and drive along, they drive around for days. Yeah. So
they have a boat too.
Well, I've got a note on that, and it's like, boats in New Idaho? And I'm like, I guess they could be on a river, but that sure looks like the ocean behind them. But knowing where it was shot, I think they shot it on the Fraser River. I don't think, because it's like they credit Mission and Abbotsford, so they're a ways from the ocean
there's a credit for Surrey as well in there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So that, again, Fraser River. So, but
so after the strangely cut opening sequence, we come across many more strangely cut sequences. There's this narrative, you're at the bad guy's place and they're all talking, and then they have this woman in a bride's dress, and then you're following the good guys who are trying to get eventually and find her, and they're asking questions and stuff along the way. But they just it's like every 5 or 6 minutes they just get stopped, and then they just get stormed by like some odd random group of people that have been production design to look different enough than the other group of people, so you feel like they're moving somewhere along in the movie.
Yeah. So the bad guys are dressed in leather and stuff. One guy's wearing chainmail, including a chainmail hood.
Dude,
which
that was he's my favorite character. He has sunglasses and he's wearing chainmail.
Yeah. I like after he shot someone too, he hawks a loogie at one point. He just spits in that direction. It was like, nice touch.
There's not even a sense of like basic screen direction. They're just going all over the place on every different stuff. They end up at this place where the bad guys live. There's like this really low shot looking up at this like stone structure, but it has a metal roll up door, and like I guess it's meant to be like a castle or whatever. It's like, this looks like a weird utility building. And then there's this slightly wider shot, and I was like, I think this is like a pump house for a hydro plant. And then sure enough, in the credits, it's BC Hydro gets thanks. So I was like, oh, they just shot it at the hydro power plant.
Well, I mean, if they were true to the course, they should have gone to Britannia Beach and shot at the mine, because back then it was before they built it back up and fixed it all up and turned it into a museum. And you'll see it in all sorts of old movies when it's all run down. It's all the windows are broken and stuff. And it's like, now it's all like new and fancy. And it's like, well, I guess you gave up on all that post-apocalyptic movie money you were making.
Free production design.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a sci-fi movie I worked on that shot there as well. So, but they took all that money they were making from movie shooting there, and then
the first time we go to the bad guy's place, and then they've captured one of the good guys, like they're going to lower him into the dog pit. Do you remember that scene?
Mm-hmm.
They have him strung up, and then she's like, you hear this dog barking and the guy's hanging, and then the chick with the Goro haircut is like, what's the matter? Don't you like my pet? Like as if it's this evil thing. And it cuts, and it's the happiest dog I've ever seen. It's just this dog sitting in a pit, like panting. It's like somebody's dog from the movie. They're like, yeah, we'll put Rufus down there, and he's just cut. It's like the most unmenacing dog of all time. It did remind me of the commercial in The Running Man for the climbing for dollars. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. It's been a long time since I saw Running Man.
How could you?
Well, I haven't seen it recently. I'm sorry. I don't rewatch these things every 4 weeks on a rotation like you do.
Well, when there is nothing else out there, I mean, what do you watch, really?
Anything but Casino.
Anything but Casino. Yeah, so very strange scene with the dog.
Yeah.
And then there's another road encounter that goes down, and it's like a guy, and he's like broken down on the side of the road with some buddies, and they're just sort of hanging out, and they're like, oh, raiders, and they kind of run off into the woods, and then the raiders drive through, and then one of the raiders fails in acquiring something. I didn't clearly figure out. I guess he just doesn't capture the people who ran off the side of the road, and then he kneels down to apologize, and he says, I'm sorry. And then another one of the raider vehicles comes up and just hits him and just runs him over. But when
they laugh, a nice ADR laugh on there.
And when he flies, it's totally this super lame mannequin. Like the level of it, the comedy level of seeing that thing fly is like, that's up there with like Hard Ticket to Hawaii level. It's not even, they're not even trying to be serious. I got a good laugh out of that.
It was around here is when I noticed, and I made this note that for being post-apocalypse, everyone's clothes are in surprisingly good shape.
Yeah, actually, there's a scene later where you actually see Danielle, and she steps out of like a battle, and she has perfectly pleated pants on.
Yeah,
like it's like the morning of filming or something. And
and the boy that she saves, he's running around the forest in like white jeans, and they're pristine.
It's funny that those are there's so many other problems, but somehow those things still stand out. I mean, I feel like all the bad guys just kind of look like roadies,
Yeah. They're for that metal band that sang the theme song.
Did you notice that one character called Ozzy? They refer to him as Ozzy, and he's like a bad guy, and he pulls a gun on him, and one of the other guys is like, what do you think, Ozzy? And then he starts talking in the most broken Australian accent at all time. Like, I couldn't tell if he's a Canadian trying to do an Australian accent because it's like some throwback to Road Warrior or something.
Oh, I guarantee.
Or he's just been there a long time and it's all messed up like mine. But I was like, what?
I zoned out every now and then. So But I did zone in when the boy's mom it gets shot and she's dying. Those are the loudest birds I've ever heard in my life while she's trying to talk.
Well, you got to talk to your sound mix buddy on that one.
Yeah. And then my next note is naked woman must have a sore neck. So our Goro woman gets like stripped down by the other women who are there.
It's such a strange scene.
Yeah, and then they put like oils or water or something on her that they rub on her while she's naked. But she was at one point just lying really funny and her neck was held up in this like really strange way. And I was like, I guess she was supposed to try and look seductive or something, but all I could think was that looked like it hurts.
That sequence is so wild. So she's like clearly like the leader of this of these bad guys. And after battle, like she shows up into this room and then she has all these slave women that slowly undress her and then they lay her down on this like chase lounge and give her this like massage and she just sort of lays there and zones out. But there's no, I don't even think there's music playing at that point.
Yeah,
and it's a really awkward scene.
And the camera lingers in a really uncomfortable way. Like it was, like I don't know, gratuitous is an understatement with that scene. Like
I mean,
and it's the first of many like that.
This is clearly an exploitation movie too. Like it knows what they're doing at that point.
Yeah.
But then there's also these like crazy cuts where people are talking and then you'll hear somebody talking and it's like full on location sound and it's echoey as hell.
Yeah,
and then the next
person
talks.
Talking to.
Yeah. Again, because there's no reactions from actions. It's so discompartmentalized. It's really, really strange. Mm-hmm. I probably should get back to the plot, but I don't. I mean, I didn't know the plot at the time either. It was
and that's actually what I got written down. So my note after the naked woman must have a sore neck is, I have no idea what is going on. And then underneath it, I wrote, "This is number 3!" exclamation mark. It's like suddenly I realized what movie we're watching. It's like,
so you figured it out. I
figured it out about a third of the way in. I was about half an hour in, and I was like, something's this. No, because I was looking at pictures on IMDb as well, and I'm going, I'm not watching that movie. What the hell's going on here? And then I looked at 3 and went, holy shit.
Yeah, I wasn't really clear until later in the film when you go back to the bad guy and there's the main bad guy and he reports to his father, who I first thought he was a vampire. He's this old guy and he's sitting in a chair and he's on these blood tubes. And I'm like, okay, so now we've got vampires. Cool. Like there's all these sorts of things. But he basically explains to the son, who's the lead bad guy, that he needs fresh blood, or the lead bad guy knows that and he's trying to acquire it. But this girl that they have is pure and she's uncontaminated. And with a blood transfusion, they can keep the father going and keep breeding and keep this cleaner or this society happening by living off people who aren't mutated and infected from all the fallout.
Right. I guess from the nuclear war that no one talks about.
But they talk about a disease and they don't really mention the...
Yeah. It's just the disease killed most people, including like whole towns would be gone within a matter of months. And, but no inkling of how it went away or if any of these people are just immune or nothing. It's just, that's what killed most of the population was the disease.
There's also these strange music cues that cut back and forth too, where it's like the guitar that we've been introduced to for the first 25 minutes. And then it just cuts to strange like 80s like electric drums and sort of soothing 80s guitar, but nothing like the music beforehand. It's almost like a totally different musical group.
I'm going to jump ahead, but at one point it starts playing when the helicopter comes out. And again, I'm jumping ahead. The helicopter comes out. They start playing Ride of the Valkyries for about 4 seconds.
Yes.
And then they cut to a cover of Born to Be Wild.
I know.
It's just, I'm thinking you had to spend money to pay for even a cover of Born to Be Wild. You had to spend money on that. Whereas, Ride of the Valkyries, that's public domain, dude.
Yeah, I don't understand why they use the cover. I thought in my thinking was that, oh, maybe they don't have to license this because it's a cover, but because it's
Oh
a
no!
horrible
Even if it's
cover.
a cover, you still have to pay for it because you don't have to pay as much because you're not using the original record. So you can tell I'm a post supervisor, but you don't have to pay as much. But you still do have to pay the publishing rights because
Okay.
you're still using. Even if it's a cover, it costs about half as much, but you still do have to pay
God.
for it.
Well,
And
Nana.
I mean, my guess is they didn't. They just
Yes.
threw it in there and took their chances.
And nobody saw it because they were confused by the names of them.
Yeah. I thought, well, if we call this Road Warrior in Italy, then someone will just go after George Miller. Yeah. Although there were some scenes, like when you said it was Danielle, the one with the short hair, woman with
Yep.
short hair, who seems to know her way around a gun and grenades and that sort of thing, is running around the forest with the young kid who's, trying to get his girlfriend back. And they're running through the forest and stuff. That was actually all shot pretty good. That's when they ran into the cannibals, zombie
Yeah.
guys.
That's when there's a weird music change too.
Yeah.
It's super strange because they're on, they've gotten past this, survived this next battle, and they're walking down the road. It cuts to two dudes in the weeds chewing on like these like plastic prop store Halloween bones. And then I'm like, oh, are these zombies? And then later you hear them discuss that they're cannibals. And then these five guys chase them for the next scene, and then they have to run from them. And then you never hear anything more about the cannibals again, and they disappear. Hard cut to that blonde chick just in some grotto, just laying there with her top off. And it's like, what? We've never seen this character before or whatever. And there's just some girl hanging out in a grotto. I'm like, okay. And then she gets up, and that introduces probably the cooler collective group of people, because again, this movie is just little pockets of different characters.
Yeah, so these are our two Vietnam vets. Basically have a prisoner from the leather guys. He's their weapons maker.
Yes.
And they've got him as a prisoner, except he's chained up, but it's a really long chain and it's just tied around his waist.
It's through his like cloth belt loop or something.
Yeah, so like he's got full access to his arms and his legs, and he could untie himself at pretty much any time he wants, but doesn't. Probably because it doesn't occur to him that he could.
And he's in the weapons locker, like on top of that.
And then they mention how they like him, so that's why they're basically giving him free reign. But it's you've got the two Vietnam vets, you got the two women who just seem to want. They're just horny, I guess.
I thought they were like sex bots or something, but they're actually real women.
Yeah, but they just seem to hit on anyone and everything at all the time, and then are never satisfied because no one takes them up on it, I guess.
Except there's a shot where they're in the tent and they're hanging out with is it Lucas, the young guy, good guy?
No, Lucas is our guy in robes.
Oh,
so it's Chuck. Our short-haired heroines brought him back to this encampment. And
right.
Of course, the girls take a bit of a liking to him, but they're playing strip poker in the tent.
But it's one of those super lame, like 4-in-1 combo board games.
Yeah, they're playing on top of that.
Yeah.
And but they're playing strip poker, and it's of course only the girls are losing.
But did you see? There's the one of the few moving camera shots in this movie is actually in that tent, and when the camera pans over, you see on a countertop in that room, there's a big glass jar, and it says cookies on it. But it's full of pills. And I'm like, oh, is this just
I thought they were
drug?
jelly beans, but I guess they're
No, they're
pills,
like drugs. So I was like, oh, they just keep these chicks drugged the whole time? Big old box of drugs. And he's probably like, here, want another cookie? And everybody's taking drugs. It's so strange. Speaking of drugs, you should probably talk about the AI that operates the base.
The flirty AI.
What is that, man?
That's looks like God, what kind of computer is that? It's like
It looks like an old Amstrad or like an old personal piece. It's got dual 5 1/4 floppy drives on it.
Yep. And then, but with a built-in monitor or built-in keyboard. And I think the monitor was separate on top of it. It's an old big CRT. And then taped to the top of that was like, I guess, a satellite dish.
No, it was another monitor facing the other way. And then this weird little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it was one of those classic home personal computer units from the early 80s. But the reveal for that, like Chuck is like walking along and he's talking to his Vietnam buddy and they're talking about the old days of how the world was better. This is just after the girls leave the grotto. And then you hear a robot voice off screen again in the theme of this movie. And then it just cuts to this computer sitting on the ground in the dirt, like not like at a terminal, not connected, and it's being spray painted, like it's just one solid color, and it's just chilling in the dirt with this stupid antenna out of it, and then it starts talking, and it's like it's the AI that's running the base and it's protecting. It was so preposterous. I was laughing so much. I was just like,
well, and at one point it has like a little animation on it.
Yes.
And in the credits, there's 2 guys credited for creating that.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I actually saw that guy credited every step of the way. Nothing is polished in this movie.
I mean, it's got a full regular crew and stuff, but it's a bunch of people who obviously were just winging it through.
I couldn't find any budget information either.
No, neither could I.
Does that mean it was because it was zero?
Well, somebody invested some money in this, obviously. But
Hopefully they made it back at least by now. I mean, anything, I feel like anything at this point, if it hit home video in 1989, you're golden. Oh, so I guess we should talk about, so the zombie/cannibal group are chasing them, and then they get away from them, and then Danielle just shows up in a car again, and now she's got like equipment. I guess she gets it from the Vietnam guys. But I had to laugh that it's totally like a 1976 Gremlin too. It's like the least Mad Max car you could ever think of, and it's all the fenders and stuff are cut off it, but you can still make out the rear hatch, and it's totally an old Gremlin, which I just had to get a good laugh out of it. Of all the cars, guys, come on. And then there's kind of a car duel. And when they run the bad guy's car off the cliff, and I'm like, oh, this looks like that quarry again from the beginning. And I slowly started to realize the whole movie is in a quarry and they're just going in a circle. But this time they're at the top of the quarry and they run the bad guy's car off. And they must have.
It's so funny because the bad guy like pulls off to the side, like takes a different route, like he's going to catch up to him, and then just drives off the cliff.
Yeah, for no reason.
We should point out these are the cannibals that are chasing him at this point too. So
and
for no reason it just goes off and then explodes.
Gotta turn it off. Yeah, and then so as they turn off, but did you notice about the explosion too? They didn't have the pyro time right, and the car actually starts blowing up before it gets off the cliff. It was probably meant to blow up when it was near the bottom, but it was way off. And I was like, God damn, this thing's exploding before it's even free fall. It's like the Twin Towers or something.
Yeah. I need to jump back to the strip poker scene.
Yes.
Because I'm just getting back up to that point in my notes. The sound effects.
When they take their shirts off, the slide whistle. Dude, I was like, cracking up.
I was like, out of nowhere, suddenly they have these cartoon sounds. That to me is the sort of thing that we would do for fun.
Right.
That you pull back out because it doesn't fit with the movie.
Yeah, you throw it in for like a quick temp screener, or when you sling in somebody a cut, you're like, here's the new cut, and you put goofy stuff in it, and they're like, oh, thanks, you idiot. Where's the real one, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the goofy stuff, but it made it the whole way. After the cannibal sequence, back to BC Hydro, we get an introduction to probably the most interesting character in the movie, which is Grandpa, who I mentioned earlier. I thought he was a vampire. He's this old guy sitting in a throne with long hair, and he has these tubes running into him, these like blood transfusion tubes. His son is the guy who's running the bad guy stuff, and he sort of talks to him about, hey, we've got this girl, she's pure, you're going to have to breed with her. Even if you don't make it, you know, your legacy will live on, like this is our purpose sort of thing. So it gives you some sort of insight of what they're trying to do. I think the reason why I thought he was cool and interesting, because when I first saw him, I was like, oh, this is like Damascus from Blade 2. Remember the old elder vampire that's in the chair? Like, you're like, oh, this guy's interesting. Then you get to see this, the son leaves old man vampire dad. I wouldn't call it a breeding room. It's like this harvesting room where they have all these women and they keep them in these tanks. And then they have the front of the tank is like this vacuum formed shell that like holds their torso. And that's where they just sort of keep them to harvest them. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume you didn't notice this. But the plastic barrels that are the barrels that they use to put the women in are the exact same 55-gallon rain barrels where they actually breed the anti-gravity midgets from Phantasm. The same damn plastic barrel. I was cheering at the screen and I was like, that's them again. The barrels are there. I'm dead set serious. If you look at them,
everything comes back to Phantasm.
It really does. And these are the same barrels, except these are kind of lamer because the Phantasm ones were interesting and curious because they had this little tinted like viewport where you could peek in and see what was in there. And the front of these barrels is completely cut out with this, like I said, like a vacuum formed molded Lexan piece that like holds the woman in there. But then there's just like this big piece of expanded foam around. It's pretty poor production design, even for this movie at this point. Well, I say that and there's that damn computer sitting on the dirt. So I don't really think they're worse, but it's really strange. A way you could sort of look at it is in modern day, in Morton Joe and Fury Road, you know, he has all the milker women and they're all in their little things and they're producing. That's the part of the movie where I was like, oh, this is still intriguing. I want to know more about what they do with this and how it gets you hooked just enough and then it cuts to another lame scene. So you don't really know.
Mm-hmm. So I guess next up we have the leather guys attacking our Vietnam vets compound.
Is that in the swamp or are we?
No, like that's after. I mean, we're getting near the end now. So maybe I'm missing something. I'm skipping too far ahead.
After that, now we're in the swamp. There's an ambush attack on the boat. Guy gets a flaming spear thrown at him. It looks like it's on a wire.
Right, and that's also where this one guy gets like a hatchet to the head, too.
Oh yeah,
it's like the weakest throw I've ever seen, or swing.
Everything in this movie is weak. When they're beating up the dad, it's so limp-wristed before they kill. And everything just has no effort or force in it at all. Nothing feels like it really lands or hits. And that is when the war breaks out at the camp.
Yeah, so the camp is somebody leaves and the AI's like, you didn't turn me on. You didn't turn me on. Meaning they forgot to reset. I don't understand. The AI computer can remotely fly a helicopter, but can't turn on the base defenses?
Flip some switch. I know. Yeah. It confused me, but what you're getting to is my favorite line in the movie, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, you forgot to turn me on, and this is what allows the leather guys to attack the Vietnam guys' base.
Right.
And one suddenly just like drops in from the cliff behind the base, like just falls in.
The quarry again.
At the quarry.
But then when the war actually breaks out, it cuts to the AI computer sitting in the dirt, and then she's like, in her robot voice, she's like, finally, someone turned me on. And then everything starts blowing up.
Yeah.
Everything about this movie feels like when we would shoot movies as kids and we would just go out with the camera and be like, okay, now you run from here and you do this and you do that. Okay, now I'm going to do this. And you're acting on what you just filmed, but you're not actually thinking about what you're going to go out and film. And it's just shot after shot after shot of this stuff. Oh, and then during the big gunfight, you just hear the voiceover of Dolores, the robot AI, and it's like, watch out behind you. And he's just turning around, shooting stuff. Like, how is he hearing this thing? Where's it coming from? There's no speakers. There's no PA system.
No, exactly. This is around where I have a note that says, where do all the clean new clothes and bullets come from?
Yeah.
And then my next note is, oh, no more bullets, apparently. Suddenly they run out. Our good guys run out.
This was the part where Danielle shows up and her pants are perfectly pleated. She's been in the middle of this war. And I'm like, clearly they stopped production.
Through the forest.
Yeah, and now
being chased by cannibals.
And somebody in wardrobe laundered everything on Friday, and now it's Monday, and they're filming, and now they've got these after this battle, the two guys, Chuck and the other guy, go off into the woods, and he's like, "Here, I'll show you something secret." And that's where he reveals that the helicopter is, right?
And they just kind of sit in it and then pretend to fly it.
He kind of like palms it off like it's not really going to fly or it's not ready or something. I didn't really get it. It was a little vague.
But then when they need it, it comes flying in, and that's when we get 4 seconds of, Flight of the Valkyries or Ride of the Valkyries.
Let's just
followed by Born to be Wild.
That's an incredible moment, to be honest. It's worth watching this whole movie just for that shot, to be honest. But we should step back a bit, because this is another one of the little key character moments that are few and far between in this movie, is when they're sitting in the helicopter, which is often tucked away in the woods. It's kind of the first time you actually hear them talk about the disease and where it started. Right. And so he's sort of reminiscing, and he's saying, yeah, at first it hit the cities, and it was only a few people in a pocket, but then it spread and it got bigger and bigger. And then he sort of basically says, anybody who got out early enough were the people who made it, and everybody else who stayed, it just spread and killed everyone. And this was my only understanding of this world, because there's no talk of nuclear war.
Nope.
And so I'm like, oh, it's a disease. And then he sort of says, yeah, the cannibals are part of like the plagued people that didn't die. And now you're like, okay, that's why the cannibals exist, is they're actually not just cannibals for the sake of it. They're also sick from this plague, but they had
zombie cannibals.
Yeah, they're zombie cannibals. And, they have a different metabolic setup, and they never got killed, but they got mutated. That's pretty much all that happens out of the helicopter. And then for some reason, then the war is just on again. Chopper.
Not only can it fly, but it can be piloted remotely by an AI computer.
The most manual helicopter of all time.
Oh, exactly. But somehow that stick is moving on its own.
And that's all you need to know. They show enough shots of the stick moving by itself that you believe it.
Then the helicopter's just gone.
Yeah, because they don't have the money to crash it. So it's just not there anymore. But then
now things have moved back towards the hydro dam or whatever, right? And
yes.
That's when we got the other sort of shepherds, I think they're called, that say we must protect the inner sanctum. And that's when one of them, if you ever notice, takes a hood and puts it over his face, completely blocking his vision, but he runs forward anyway.
Well, we should say, before we get back to BC Hydro, the thing that breaks up that battle. Yeah, I know this movie's exciting. Like it's like I want to keep talking about it. But we can't leave out my favorite character in the movie is the rocket helmet guy, the prisoner.
Oh, right. That's right, because our Vietnam guys lose. They run out of bullets.
They're pinned down.
They get pinned down. They get taken over. And then we cut to Chuck and the girl, the short-haired woman, are tied up, and they're going to get executed. Danielle, thank you. They're going to get executed. And that's when, the guy, our weapons maker, has built himself a hat with missiles on it.
And it's, what a hat. It looks like a wakeboard that he's wearing as a helmet, because it has wings on it, and it's just covered in missiles and rockets.
There's
and
at least 4 or 6 of them, I think.
It's the most bizarre. If you can imagine in your mind just taking a hard hat and then putting a big wing of cardboard on it and gluing a bunch of rockets to it. That is what it looked like. It looked so impractical to a point where I was just rolling, because it was just, how is this? And he just shows
he's their expert weapons maker.
And he just kind of comes galanting it, and he's just running in there and just starts letting off these rockets off his helmet, and he's shooting them from everywhere. And talk about no sense of threat. But did you notice when the rockets go off, it's like a hard cut to a model rocket just flying on blue sky. Remember those cardboard rockets we all had as kids? And every time he fires one of those rockets, it cuts to just some model rocket shooting through the sky on a totally different day, wherever it is.
On a completely different direction.
Yep.
And then, of course, he turns on the letter guys had freedom, and then he turns on them.
And that's the moment where the rocket helmet guy is just like going ham with these things. And then out of nowhere, you hear the AI computer say, whoopee. And then the helicopter starts up and flies under AI, and it's just flying around attacking everybody. And then all the shots of the people firing on the ground, they're all firing from the hip. It's everybody. It's like everybody are acting in this love westerns as a kid. And they're like, finally, I get to shoot a gun like I'm in the movies like John Wayne did. And everybody's hip shooting. And it's a really weird thing to see.
The number of times people are blind firing too, like early in the movie, they get away with the guy who gets hit by the car later. He's just basically holding his rifle above his head and kind of wildly shooting in every direction. And the woman who he's fighting with does exactly the same thing. And at one point when she's in the car, I noticed she's shooting her rifle upside down. She's holding it upside down and shooting. I'm just like, why?
I think it almost works a little bit better because that way they most likely clearly didn't know what they were cutting to. And so they were just like, shoot in any direction. And then it'll at least, if it all doesn't make sense, it's better than some of it not making sense, which is, I guess, an easy way out. I will say that, you know what? One thing I noticed in this movie that I really like, there's no damn kids in this movie. There's like nobody young.
There's two cannibal kids.
Well, there's the cannibal kid, but they're not characters where you're worried about, oh, what are the kids thinking or whatever. They show up and disappear.
They watch the short-haired woman bathe herself. All right, so now we're at the good guys have turned the tide, and they're closing in on the inner sanctum of the New Idaho people. And this is when Lucas like shoots his dad. For reasons I don't really understand.
No.
But shoots him so I guess he can take his place, is what I gather.
And let's just be clear here. This is like the end warehouse showdown in every action movie or fight. Like this is the big, it's going down. It's going to end here. You know the movie, and we're back at BC Hydro, which is their base, their castle. Yeah,
so our short-haired, good girl is chasing down our Goro top-knot woman. And they're shooting back and forth. And then the short-haired girl just throws a grenade. And then you hear off camera her cry out, the Goro woman cry out, and I guess she's been killed.
Can I say this is the
never see them
lowest,
again.
the least climactic ending to a movie I've ever seen. And I've seen some stuff, but exactly to what you're saying. You think it's going to be this showdown, and she tosses a grenade, to your point, off screen, and then you just hear this, and then an explosion. And she doesn't even go look at the body. She doesn't see any. You just cut away, and that's it.
We cut away. We're done with them. It's over. Because then we cut to, Lucas has now got the young blonde girl, and her boyfriend comes running in and yells, get away from her, and then immediately shoots Lucas. It's like no pause, nothing. Get away from her. Bang, bang. And Lucas goes down, and they hug, and he got a freeze frame, and then boom, it's over.
The
guitar starts up.
I actually said to the TV when that happened, that it went to the freeze frame, I was like, that's it? Because it just, I'm all about killing the bad guy when you get the chance. I thought that was great because I feel like that never happens in movies. Last Action Hero is like, has a real lot of fun with that problem, where it's like, just nobody ever shoots the bad guy, you always got to talk. And to give this some credit, this is the only movie where I've seen where somebody just runs in and just blasts the bad guy, and it works. But
then it's over.
It is really over. And yeah, you're right, because he leans down, he like half scoops her off the bed. It's not even a different shot or anything, and he kind of like half lifts her off the bed, and then it goes to freeze frame, and then credits roll. You're like, wow. What is this movie? It is the most incomplete movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It felt like the whole movie was a second act.
Yeah, I haven't felt like that since I saw what was it, Born Legacy, the Renner, the one with Jeremy Renner.
Never seen an episode.
It's like the Matt Damon Bourne movies, especially the first one, are great, but then they made this one with Jeremy Renner, and it felt like it was 2/3 of a movie. Like it's really short. It just sort of abruptly ends, and it was like, well,
Weird.
I thought we were going into the third act now, but okay, credits are rolling. So this is kind of like that, only much more extreme.
Yeah, they just really get out of this movie. You have to assume that it's resolved because they've killed Goro Topknot and he saved the girl, which
Yeah.
I'm fine with because I do love, and it's not done enough, and I've said it before, is you kill the monster, credits roll. This is an extreme version of that, except you don't get payoff of killing the monster, really, like, as it's just gone. And so this movie's more like credits just roll.
Yeah.
And speaking of credits...
Yep.
So the first thing that I thought about the credits was that when they just say Raiders and then it's just people's names in columns, just walls of text of Raiders. It's not like, Drunken Raider or Sunglass Chainmail Raider or Raider who, gets hit by the van. Like, there's just nothing. And I think what that probably is that a lot of them doubled up or tripled up and played a lot of different characters throughout the movie, which
Totally.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Our band again, which we mentioned, the Gore Avenue Music Project, which is great. I really need to actually look them up after this. Tom Lavin was credited for that really weird cover of Born to Be Wild. He was the guy who got the credit on there, which was, I guess they credit him for it and they can license it. I wonder if they actually have to get a representative for Steppenwolf to listen to that track or approve it.
No, I think usually you just get someone to sign off on the fact that we're recording it for this thing. But again, I doubt any of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see a music supervisor or anything on in the credits. Mind you, I don't think I saw a post supervisor either. So yeah, so I doubt they did any of that. They probably just thought, well, we're doing our own version of it. Doesn't matter. Back
to the beginning where you were talking about where you used to work. Video post done by Gastown Post and Transfer. My next credit is the favorite, though, is that this is when I was like yelling at the TV. It says special thanks to Mainland Sand and Gravel Ltd. And I was like, it was a quarry. It was a quarry. And then right underneath that, it says also Surrey Honda.
And special thanks to the Mission in Abbotsford.
And BC Hydro.
And BC Hydro, yeah.
And then there's another one that got me in there. Did you see the other Fraser Valley credit?
No.
Special thanks to students of automotive and welding Fraser Valley College and to the communities of Abbotsford and Mission, BC.
There you go.
So
they had the university students, the welders, basically make their cars.
Yeah, so that's why the car was a Gremlin, because the university probably had an old Gremlin and they cut it up.
Yeah, and they gave them money for it.
I have some notes on confusing titles and release date, but now I know why I'm confused because it was the wrong damn movie.
Yeah, because this was definitely 3.
So did you check out the composer, William Buckingham III?
No, I did not.
How would you not know this guy, William Buckingham III? He was also a grip on Van Damme's Hard Target. And then he went on in 1994 to be a grip on True Lies. That is a good career.
He's a composer, but he's also a grip.
He was a composer, and then he became a grip. He graduated from being William Buckingham III was the composer on this, but then he broke out and was a grip on Hard Target. And
completely compatible jobs.
I bet you he got grip on True Lies, and he was just like, I'm done. This is the pinnacle. It's also a perfect movie.
I noticed too many names I know. So.
Dude, we got to get them on the show. Can we get these people on the show to talk about this movie? Yeah, so did you see the first AD, Michael Metcalf?
I did.
He also starred in Flesh Gordon Meets the Cosmic Cheerleaders. And he played a character named Chief Diarrhea.
Oh, I'm looking at him now. He was also the production manager.
Yeah, at the same time. Another one that somebody who sort of did other stuff was the second assistant director, John Ogus. He was a lamp operator on In the Name of a King. And I like that movie because it was one of the last Burt Reynolds movies. People aren't crazy about it, but I thought it was good. Lamp operator on a Burt Reynolds movie. That is something that I'll never be able to attain. That's a credit that, and all the stunt guys, pretty much all of them cross-pollinate to Rumble in the Bronx, which is funny because that's a Vancouver movie, right?
Yeah. So I used to work in a grocery store. That's what I did my previous life. And one of our store detectives, the guys that make sure the customers aren't stealing, had a fairly significant part in a Rumble in the Bronx.
Really?
And it's funny because they redubbed all his lines with somebody else. And it's just like, because it's so weird, because that movie it's a hodgepodge of English and Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think Jackie Chan spoke any English.
I thought it was entirely dubbed by the time I saw it in the theater in Australia. To be honest. So.
Well, and that's it. I saw it that way too.
So the only other person that I noticed and I worked on this cast, man. Like I usually don't have to dig this hard to find people that worked on something that I like or find is interesting.
Yeah.
But what I did find is
I forgot. I did know. Sorry to interrupt you, but one of the camera assistants is a DP now that I've worked with on like 30 movies.
Oh, okay. You should ask him about this movie.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I want to talk about it either. But he's just like a camera assistant.
Yeah.
So it's like really early in his career.
So Michael Bernardo is credited in stunts in this movie.
Okay.
His big breakout or his pinnacle role came to be he was Ice Thug on Batman and Robin. The good one, the good Batman that we talked about.
Yeah, the good one.
Great movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it came in at 3.5 stars on IMDb.
Out of 10.
I don't think this is, it's worthy of a 3.5, sure, because it's not great. But you know what? It's not. It's not better than Starship Invasions.
No, that's true. And actually, I'm looking at it now. It's 3.6. So did you bump up the rating?
No, I didn't rate it. It's grown. This movie is not near as good as Starship Invasions for a lot of reasons, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, well, Starship Invasions just has a much better. Well, I had a budget, first of all. I mean, I doubt these guys even had $1 million in '89, let alone what that would equate to in like '77.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's an unfair rating. Not so unfair to this movie. I think just again, it's Starship Invasions having an unfair rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starship Invasions is not a good movie, but it's certainly coherent.
Has the core, which also is, I don't think this movie needs a remake because we've seen this movie a lot in modern times. This sort of people fleeing from a post-apocalyptic world trying to survive.
We saw this movie a lot in the 80s as well.
Yeah.
So,
but now like
it's been done a lot of times.
This could be 28 days later or anything. It's the same kind of thing. So
yeah.
It doesn't.
No, I don't think this is a pretty. I hate to say it because I know a lot of people who worked on it probably worked hard, but it's pretty forgettable.
Yeah. Although it's extremely memorable because I've never watched a movie and thought it was called one thing and find out I watched the wrong damn movie.
Well, you didn't watch the wrong movie. It's just we just didn't like. Well, I don't know. Yeah. It's we both watched the movie we intended to watch, just not knowing it wasn't the movie we thought we were watching. I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But the poster for this one's even better than Empire of Ash.
I was looking at this poster, is actually a lot better. I sat down, locked in, and I thought I was going to watch Empire of Ash, also known as Empire of Ash 2, but it turns out that I ended up watching Empire of Ash 3, which is technically Empire of Ash 2. So
yeah, and I love how you've had no idea till I told you tonight.
Never would have done it in my life.
It brings me such joy.
Well, join us again for Empire of Ash 2, actually. I think if we can find it and we can do what we're going to do, we'll probably still just list this as Empire of Ash 1.
No, I'm going to leave it on. I've already corrected it.
Okay.
So this is Empire of Ash 3.
Okay. So then do join us when we watch Empire of Ash 2 as our new bit as we watch movies backwards. All right, man. This is always fun. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been fun.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Therefore, whatever appears on the television screen emerges as raw experience for those who watch it. Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television.